biggest podcast ever.
If I carry on at the trajectory I'm carrying on, they're going to put me in jail because I'm too influential and I'm too dangerous.
Police in Romania raiding the home of controversial online influencer Andrew Tate.
I've seen a lot of people rise, fall, come and go. And Andrew Tate pretty much copying my entire look.
Do you feel that you're the original?
100%. I grew up around real men like my dad, my uncle, like 6'2", 6'3", beasts of guys with good morals. You're not a high value man until you've been smacked in the face a couple times. You know, you've lost a bunch. I went 2 years without women and did the no fap thing so I could focus on business. People are gonna laugh at this, but there's a small pocket of male oppression. You don't get 140,000 subscribers by accident, right? You must be saying something that 140,000 people resonate with. So I know I've proven myself. You know, I've been punched in the face and it's hurt and I've gone, no, I fancy a bit more of this, and I've gone forward. Whereas a lot of guys get punched, cower, run off.
So what inspired you to start helping young men and the whole journey with First Man?
When I got into my industry at the start, I loved it. It was, you know, doing it all for the right reasons. Hamza came along, you've had Jack on here. They're all doing it for the right reasons. They want to help men. A lot of these American YouTubers go, hey, that's a way to make money. That's a way to get views. Fresh and fit. I look at them and I'm like, have you even ever had a job? It worries me. They've created a podcast without becoming successful first, which is what obviously you've done.
That's
it's
what
the right
so
way
many
to do it.
financial influencers are doing.
Yeah.
They're popping up like 18 and
Especially
how
crypto.
to save your money and make your money. Yeah, crypto, all of that stuff.
I can see an 18-year-old talk about how to get real estate. It's like,
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Like,
They've never bought a house in their life.
yeah.
or they have, but it's because like their
money,
dad
yeah.
gave them 30K or something like that and they went and did it. But this is my debate, is YouTube money. I don't make anything off YouTube. I got to the point where I had 250,000 views per month. And I got really excited about the profits and the views and everything. So what I started doing is going on SEO websites and searching terms that I thought were popular, finding a search term and then writing content about that. I ended up hating the job. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to create content that I think is great. I'm going to create unique content, like the male advantage, the straight 7 system, the Darwinian male. Nobody knew what these things were, but now they're like well known. Like, Tate the other day was talking about the straight 7 system using my examples. Well, that's something I created from scratch, and now he's obviously gone and copied it. It's too niche to talk about. You know, he's used the exact terminology. It's been happening for a long time, but I don't really care as long as people link back to you. Like, for example, Hamza, Captain Sinbad, Jack, they'll message me. They'll be like, I love that video. Can I make something around it? Yeah, of course. And then they link back to me. And some of my subscribers messaged me and said, oh, you know, Hamza steals your content. I was like, he doesn't though, because at the end of the day, he reaches people that I can't reach. Look how big his following is. So if he takes one of my concepts that he likes, that's a compliment, number one. Number two, if he reaches a whole new audience that I can't reach myself and then says, hey, First Man came up with this, go and check him out. I'm going to grow, whereas I wouldn't have grown before. So I have no problem with that. But when I see like Andrew and Tristan Tate literally copying word for word at least 50 videos of mine, and Andrew Tate pretty much copying my entire look.
Do you feel that you're the original?
100%. But people call bullshit on it because they look at his following now and they're like, well, he's bigger than you. Why would he copy you? But they forget a year ago, nobody knew who he was. If you had said Andrew Tate a year ago, people would have gone, who?
Do you get
How's that
frustrated when
like
they say that you're copying Andrew Tate?
Slightly, I did at the time. I don't anymore because I know the longevity's with me. And here's the thing, if you're copying somebody, eventually you're just going to run out of ideas. You're going to run out of content to talk about. So it's like, I can keep coming up with content forever. I've got my streaming platform. I can keep, this is just a factory. Whereas I don't think he does. I don't think he's got that. I think he used women to make money, which is anti our industry, you know, because he's promoting porn, which is what we're all against, which I, you know, find a little bit weird. And then he used another guy's casino to piggyback off and make his own money. So he's never done anything himself, if that makes sense.
Right,
so to see him do that,
he's
I'm
like
like,
a chess player, isn't he? Like he has all the different pieces and is moving them.
he knows,
in the
but he's
correct
smart.
ways.
He knows what he's doing. You know, they always say, what is it? Good artists create, great artists copy. Yeah. And he's massively profitable. And I quite like the guy. A lot of people give him shit. I think morally, He's quite good. I saw a video with him and Mike Thurston, where he said to Mike Thurston when they were boxing, he was like, look, you can hit me. He was like, I'm not going to just snap out and just start wailing on you. He was like, I've done this all my life. It's all good. I had a lot of respect for him in that moment. I was like, he's a decent bloke. Like, he's very switched on. And I think if I ever got in a street fight, I'd want him there. Not because of his skill set. If he'd never fought in his life, this is his mindset. A friend of mine the other day, I wasn't there, but I messaged him to say, well done. A girl got pushed in a bar and he jumped on the guy and just started strangling the guy, right? And I was like, I've got so much respect for you, because he was on his own and there was like 6 other guys and he went in and did that. And I'm like, you're somebody that I've got a ton of respect for, somebody that I like. And I see that in the Tate brothers. So I don't have a problem with the guys. That's not to say I didn't do a dossier, which is another thing he copied me on. I said I did a dossier on Andrew Tate. Right. And then a week later, he said he did a dossier on Sneeko. Here's the thing. I'm not egotistical enough to believe that he copies all of my moves, right? I'm also not egotistical enough to believe that only I can come up with great ideas. Like, I'm sure those two could come up with the same ideas I do. You know, you could easily go, First Man copies Rollo Tomassi. I've watched a few Rollo Tomassi videos where I'm like, fuck, you would really think we copy each other, because he's literally word for word. I've never read his book. I've never watched his videos until people recommended it to me probably like a year ago, which is I'd already made all the content. So it's plausible they're just coming up with the same conclusions
it's similar
I am.
Principles, isn't it? Key principles for becoming a better male that you would come up with again and again. There's only so many times you can remix them.
We all seem to get to that same point where we go, okay, these are the core fundamentals, and we all, say similar stuff. And here's the thing, he's rich enough, he's got a team, and I'm not saying it's him. He's got better things to be doing than sitting on his phone and researching whatever, and his brother. They've got a team of people who are researching content creators like me, Hamza. They're aware of all of us, and they're taking the best bits and going, that's a good idea. And that's how they're doing it. It's strange. I've almost had to go through like 101 things to learn what I've learned and then feed it into the audience. And then people go, how do you know so much about it? It's like, because I've been through it. Yeah, and it was awful.
Whereas a 19-year-old preaching that online hasn't been through any of that. So
exactly,
you've got quite an advantage there.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why people will leave a comment or something like, I don't think that's true. And I'm like, I've lived it. I've literally lived it. It's true, I promise you. My friend died at 18, my best friend. And it kind of hit me that like life is a lot shorter than what we originally thought. It's like the first sign of mortality at 18, where you realize actually we can die at a young age. So that really hit me, and I was like, I need to do something with my life. And I remember thinking, because I was in a factory job and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Like, felt somewhat suicidal to the point where I was just like, I'm going to drive into a wall. But it was night shifts, and I was like, I'm just going to drive into a wall one of these nights. And then after watching the film Hitch, I was like, I'm good at attracting women, where in reality it's just you're 18, you're drunk, she's drunk. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, I could do that for a full-time job. That could be really, really cool. So I set up my website, which in the early days was called mensselfimprovement.com.
Do you still have the domain? Because I imagine that's worth quite a lot. No, you sold it, yeah?
I just never renewed it.
Oh, no.
I bet it's worth loads now.
Men's self-improvement, that's probably thousands.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
See, that was my logic back then. No,
Probably
don't say that. I wouldn't say that.
I reckon 10.
Maybe
10
$1 million.
10 grand.
I think.
It will be worth more now because of what we've all done with the industry, how we've all boosted it up and, brought the views in and, all the different parties and whatever. But when I had that first website, I had a girlfriend, and, you do all the typical things. She's your first beautiful girl that you can attract as well. And you're talking about kids being together forever. I think I was like...
Disney princess.
She thought she was as well. So I was like 19, she was like 18. And it eventually all came crashing down around about a year later. I didn't realize at the time, when a woman breaks up with a man, she has 1,000,001 options. When a man breaks up with a woman, he thinks he has 1,000,001 options, but it's not on her level. It's not quite what she, can do. There was a guy that she didn't want when she was younger. He went on to become a professional MotoGP rider. So after we broke up, she went straight off with him and was taking pictures, uploading them, whatever. At the age I am now, I'm like, that's what women do, right? I'd be like, oh, I know what she's doing there. Like, that's a silly game to play. Back then, I was stressing, sleepless nights. I was like, oh, she's replaced me with somebody who's better. He's earning $250,000 a year. I was like panicking at like 19, 20. I was a personal trainer at the time. I wasn't I didn't do all the like qualifications and whatever, but I was just doing it because I thought I was pretty good at training. So it was like family, friends and whatever. So I went to train this one woman, and she looked at me and she goes, "What the hell's happening to your hair?" And I looked in the mirror and I parted it, and there's like a long line straight through there. And it was just like, I was like, oh no, this is serious. But then everything online is once the stress goes, it'll grow back. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I was always looking in the mirror like I was coming back. And this went on for a few years. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I had to start searching, stuff like beta males versus alpha males, how to become a better man and all that sort of stuff. So I did that for probably 6 months straight. And that's where I got, or maybe a year, and that's where I got like a lot of my knowledge base about like self-improvement, men's self-improvement, stuff like that, men's lifestyle and whatever. I use women as an A/B/example, and you get a lot of shit because people are like, you're hating on women, but people lose the true identity of the channel and what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to help men who were in the same position you were X amount of years ago, who are now crying on their bed, thumping the wall, thinking I'm going to end it all. So by saying, hey guys, look, men and women live on different timelines. You're stressed right now and you can't get it. Nobody's ever committed suicide because that tree died, if it's real. Nobody ever committed suicide because the bulb went, right? People commit suicide because they can't attract a partner or their partner leaves them. People commit suicide for financial reasons. So I looked at those two things as the most important, most integral parts of male life. I was like, get those two ticked first and then get on with everything. So I'll talk about, for example, a woman will get to 18. She's not got a whole life together, but she's got what she needs. She's quite literally beautiful without ever going to the gym, terrible diet, lying in bed all day. It's plausible. I'm not bitter about that, right? But it comes across in a TikTok clip like you are. And I got a lot of shit on TikTok for that. But my motive there is to educate guys on that and to say your peak doesn't come until you're like 28.
Yeah, because everything has got to come around. Everything's got the chance to get better. And you alluded to relationships earlier, and you were 19 and she was 18. Now, I would say that, this is generalising a little bit, but if those relationships go on to marriage, how many of those relationships actually succeed and carry on till their older years? I don't think many of them actually do, because you change so much between so let's say 18 for a girl and 24, and certainly similar for a guy. You're a different person as you mature.
So what was your secret then?
Well, I didn't actually get together that early.
He was young though.
Mum was 19.
Yeah, I was about 24. Sorry, not 34. I was about 24. But we got together. We didn't get married until I was about 35.
But your businesses were already established.
Yeah.
You built yourself up, and then you attracted her.
Get the money then.
Well, that's the key. That is the key, because there is a statistic on this, which is 90% of relationships that start before 30 end. And I would argue that that's only held together by people of other cultures that live, within our countries. Otherwise, if it was just based on British people, that'd probably be like 99%, if not higher. Now, again, it's probably dragged down by really young relationships, like 14, 15 at school. Like, it's going to end, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Depends how you define the relationship, doesn't it?
If it's a proper one, where you're
How much do you think money influences people staying together? Because a lot of people say money isn't everything.
See, I think here's the thing. Me and Hamza have been speaking about this a lot lately as well. It's funny because both of us started out in this industry to, you want a better life. You want the Lamborghini, you want the beautiful women, so that's what you went after. Then you start accomplishing some stuff and you're like, oh no, it's more about the purpose. It's more about helping people, because when I help people, I get paid and my life gets better. And then you go, okay, so in order to do that, I need more money. So then you start chasing profits, which we've both done. And you chase the profits, and now we've both come to a revelation, which is, oh no, we want quality of life. This is fucking stressful. Like every single day, I'm just 7 days a week, I'm working, I'm tired, I'm annoyed, I'm stressed about something.
But you probably could have a break though, couldn't you? If you really wanted, but you don't.
No, I couldn't. This is the thing,
It's
right?
that winner's mindset.
Potentially, yeah. But when I have a break, everything... There's like 500 emails that I need to answer, and they're customer emails and stuff like that.
So do you enjoy that, or do you feel trapped in your passion now?
No, because I've got the way I would do if I didn't have the streaming platform. Because I don't I'm not a YouTuber. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I love YouTube, but I don't want to be a YouTuber.
So you've got a long-term vision and an exit plan eventually, so you're working towards that.
I just see, and this is no offense to YouTube, I love what they do, and I think they've helped everybody, build a base up to this point. But I don't think there's any longevity in creating, like the Sidemen. They know that can't last forever. And there's a lot of people chasing that dream. Like, how much more content can you come up with? It's tough.
It's a content treadmill, isn't it? Over and over. There's only so much, and then you're done. With the whole male self-improvement space, why do you think some people see it as toxic?
Yeah, it's who you're talking to, isn't it? Like, if you're in a room with rational people, you're going to come up with a rational conclusion. But if you're here's the thing. In the early days, I started saying what I say, and then you think, oh, people are intelligent enough to figure what I mean out here. But what you'll get is you breed a cesspool. So in the comments appeared all these black pill kids. Yeah, I hate women, fuck women, and all this stuff. And I was like, this isn't what I wanted at all. Like, I had a girlfriend at the time when I was making the content, and I was like, this is disgusting. Like, my sister was pregnant as well. And I'm like, with a little girl. And I was like, this is awful. I've got great relationships with women. I was like, I don't want that. So you start to put out the fires in the comment section and whatever. But it would have been very easy to have bought into that. And it's like birds of a feather flock together. You can have an idea, you can have an idea, you can have an idea, you can have an idea. If we've all got the idea sat at the table, it becomes what is called the village effect. There's a book called The Village Effect, where once you've got multiple minds, you come up with even more ideas, you go down that rabbit hole deeper, and then it becomes extremism. And that's how it comes about. And you've got to be very careful, because if you watch things like porn, if you look at OnlyFans girls, if you're always on Instagram and you're looking at pictures of women all the time, you're going to have a certain perception of women being very promiscuous, and they only want guys that are like this. I had Alicia on my podcast recently, and
Alicia who?
Her surname is very hard to pronounce,
Okay.
but it's Alicia with a J _AB. She's in all honesty, she's famous for being hot, but she doesn't do the OnlyFans thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put a picture on the screen.
Yeah. And I obviously checked her into the place with her friends and whatever. And I was like, so do you want to go out tonight? Like, what do you want to do? I'll show you some places, whatever, how long you're staying for. They're like, we're going to stay in and play board games. I was like, that's really interesting. Yeah. And then obviously you do the podcast, but either side of that, you got her on her own for like an hour or two either side. Most down-to-earth, normal woman you'll ever meet. And you might see a video on Instagram where she's twerking. It's for views, it's for clout, she might want a job as a presenter or something moving forward. It's a great way to do it. Do you know what I mean? We all do what we can to get views and whatever. They're just doing that. So you build up this image, this online image. So it's so important to be like, oh no, I actually was with a woman the other day. And they're not like that at all. Like the last, I won't say a number, but the last handful of women that I've slept with, very low body counts, hadn't had sex for months. I know obviously they're going to tell you that, but it seemed that way. They were super inexperienced, very nervous. And you're like, oh, like not everybody's,
it breaks you out of that bubble.
It out there.
It breaks you out of the bubble, yeah. And what a lot of these guys do is they spend all their time in Reddit forums and red pill communities and then the black pill stuff, which I've had some beef with them in the past, but it's a one-way beef. They hate me, but it's only because I hold them accountable. Because I always say, yeah, women are young and beautiful. Yeah, they've got all the power when they're young and whatever. I'm like, but it's not their fault. It's just biological. It's just the way of the world. And if they didn't have that, would you work as hard to become better to try and get them? You wouldn't. So if that didn't exist, if that dynamic didn't exist and you had everything you wanted at 18, you'd be like one of these sons of rich kids that turn to drugs.
I mean, you do say quite a lot about young males that don't have a plan. Do you think that women in general are built with a plan? Because I seem to think from the cradle they're almost nurtured to the marriage, kids, this, that, and the other.
It's very oppressive too, because obviously it's like here's a one fits all. You go and become a mother, and that's all you're good for, which is terrible. But we've grown. I think we've grown out of that now.
Yeah,
I don't think that's in place. Some areas could be better than others, but it's dangerous in some sense. But on the other side of the coin, just say it again.
Well, the fact is that obviously they're looking for someone that can provide. I mean, years ago, they're looking for someone that could win a fight and feed the house, to be strong and good for the kid. But really nowadays, I would say it's more about finding someone who can provide long term for their future and their kids' future, and that's almost like an inbuilt plan.
See, for me, the other side of the coin is that, but it is there as a get out of jail card. That's what I've always called it. Is like, as a man, right? Here's a great scenario. Let's say I'm 21 and I get with a 21-year-old woman, right? I get her pregnant. I go home and tell my family, and they go, "You fucking idiot! You're not in a position to be able to do that. You don't have the money. You're not ready for that. You better be ready to provide for that young kid and whatever." So for me, it's problems, it's a burden, it's stress. If her life isn't going well, she can go, "Oh, I'm going to go and get pregnant." And then society goes, "Congratulations, well done, sit at home all day." If you, like, I'm not saying they all do, sit at home all day if you want to. As a man, you could get to work now, go and provide. But as the woman, yeah, sit at home all day if you want, look after that kid, which she rightly should. It's not, like I'm saying, I don't have any hatred. She should do that. Most important job, being a mother, is fantastic. But they have that option. They have the get out of jail card. So as a man at 21, you could be suicidal, stressed out. You don't know where to turn. You've got no option. Do you know what I mean? The only way out is probably 5 years in the gym and 10 years on a business. Sacrificing, reinvesting. That's what I had to do. Closer to 12 on a business. But you get what I mean. The average is 12 apparently. Well, I did 10, the average is 12. So it shows you what you have to put in. My gym journey was probably 4, 5, 6 years, depending. Obviously COVID broke it up and whatever. But that is what I had to do to get to the position I'm in today, with a ton of reinvestment, stress, go through all the trials and tribulations. I know girls that got to 21 were unemployed, had nothing going for them, and just went, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a rich guy. That's a bonus, right? But she could, and this isn't a negative, like I said, but she could plausibly say, "I'm just going to go and get pregnant." And the government will go, "Well, here's X amount of money every month. You could sit at home." And then once that kid's of school age, she goes and has another one. So it's like, that is there as an option. I'm not saying that's what women want to do, but if it's there as a safety net, it's quite nice psychologically.
I think one of the benefits of being a guy, though, is you can build yourself up like that character in a game, and then become that better version of yourself. So if you were a guy in that situation, what tips would you give to that person to increase their power?
Well, I always use a concept of points on the board. It's just doing, I think Wheat Waffles called it low hanging fruit as well. And what he means is just like, take what you can with, like, basically do what you can with what you have, with the position that you're in. And that's what I did. I was broke, but I was like, let's just learn skills. Let's just learn how to create a website myself. There was never a barrier to entry. How cheap is the gym? It's very cheap. And you can shower at the gym. So you can save on water rates there and use that money to fund the gym, And I was walking to the gym each morning. It was like 2-3 hours in London, going to the gym and then going into the office job and then walking back. And I was saving about £136 a month on train travel, 138 roughly. And I was putting that into the gym, into my food and my, supplements and whatever I was taking, creatine, mass gainers and whatnot. So you can get around it. You just have to do what you can with what you have. And I just call it points on the board. So it's like when I was 18, if I saw a beautiful woman, I would have been like, oh shit, I can't go over there and talk to her. She's way out of my league. Whereas now I'm like, well, like, yeah, you're beautiful and I'm sure you've got other traits, but I would feel as though I've done enough, to justify getting a number, or like
you could hold your own.
I could hold my own, yeah. And you're not everybody's type, right? No guy is. Like,
of course not.
Bold head, big ears. For some girls, they don't like it, right? But some girls, they're like, oh, I like a masculine looking guy. The girl that I'm dating at the moment says you're just rough around the edges. She was like, I like it, right? So it's not everybody's type. It's some people's types. But I would be quite like, what, you didn't even want to give it a try? Because I think percentages wise, how many guys do you know who are like 6'2", in shape, doing well for themselves financially, like in the top 0.1% of earners, intelligent? It's hard to talk about yourself, isn't it? But you get what I mean, like well-dressed, whatever.
Well, you're
like,
hard to replace, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the Vrin school.
If she decides you are the one for me, she ain't going to find another one of you too easily.
See, with Instagram and stuff like that, there's a global options now. Like, there's a global reach. She can find somebody, online, but it's like, is that going to work? And is that what you want? But any girl that I meet in like an area that I'm in, I'm like, I just can't imagine. Like I said, I don't think I'm the best looking guy in the world. I don't even think I'm good looking. I say this to people often, but I've ticked a lot of boxes in my opinion that give me that opportunity where I think, like if I came over and I was an idiot, I was a dick, I was arrogant and whatever, and she went, no, I'm not interested. I understand that. But if you're a normal level-headed guy who gets it, who is self-aware, who's aware of like the scenario, I just don't understand why she wouldn't just be like, yeah, sure. And that's what I've seen, just simply from putting points on the board.
Yeah,
you know,
you
and
level yourself up in different ways, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be just the way you look.
the straight 7 system.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it was all about. It's just, you don't have to be a 10 in, well, you don't have to be a billionaire with Arnold Schwarzenegger's body. You can be a 7 across the board. So you can get to like, oh, damn, that guy's in really good shape. He's not going to win any competitions, but he's in really good shape, which takes what, like 2 years in the gym. And then financially, what's a 7, like 80,000 a year, 70, 80,000 a year. I think you put a year or 2 in, you could do that with ease. You could do that with a 9-to-5 job. You know, stay late at the office, turn up early. There we go, tick. Yeah. Any boss is going to go, yeah, promotion. And as you get closer to 30, he's going to trust you more, or she's going to trust you more, the boss, and just be like, yeah, take the job. So I just think it's quite easy.
A 7 in 7 different characteristics, or is it
just straight 7 across the board? I mean, you could have it in personality, conversation, you know, culture in terms of like what you know about the world, languages, you know, anything really. But it's just like, then you spread yourself too thin when you have too many. So that's why I always said like finance, kind of appearance, fitness.
So they're the main
maybe
ones.
Dress sense. And then what I call life setup, which I've actually stolen from Dan Bilzerian, but evolved it a little bit differently. You've always got to mix everything up, but life setup will be like the assets you have. You don't have to have the flashiest car in the world, but just, you know, it shouldn't have 2 rims missing. Do you see what I mean? Like it should be something decent. It should be, just get yourself a black BMW, get yourself a grey Mercedes. Like, do you know, something simplistic, which is masculine.
So
life setup.
Talking about women, what are your thoughts on marriage? And would you ever get married?
It's a big no for me.
And why is that?
It's a big no for me. Well, number one, the 90% of relationships before 30.
Yeah.
Well, you're past the 30.
I'm past 30, but the girl wouldn't be. But you look at that and you go, well, that's suicide, number one, for anybody doing that. So that was always out of the question.
I never thought that. I always thought, you know, talk to your the person you're engaged with and make sure everything aligns, because, you know, as soon as you work out that purely that love isn't going to hold it together, and that you're going to need to buy a house, buy a car, look after a kid, put them through school, do all of these things, as long as you align that, I think you can have a successful marriage. I think it's when people don't realise all of that and they jump straight into it, sort of blind, really.
Do you feel that mum helped you make more money, or kind of held you back?
I probably could have made more money,
you think?
to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought you were going to say that she was like your teammate.
I would have taken a lot more risk, for sure. But that wouldn't have made me any happier. I was happy that I was in a content relationship that was working towards our dreams, and they were our combined dreams, you know, and I think that's a very good thing. And she had, because some of my dreams didn't necessarily align with hers, like being a racing car driver, for example, she sort of put up with that for a certain number of years because she knew that would come to an end, and then we'd build on the next part of our journey. And I think if you're honest, that's quite important. But I think too many people go in naive. And I think you've said about the Disney princess sort of principle, we don't need much money, we've got just enough. And maybe you want to elaborate on that, because you've never got just enough.
I think you can hit a certain level. So I've said to the guys before on the channel, like, you can... I don't want to be, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because my dad died at 59 and I'm 30. And I don't think that'll happen to me because, you know, he'd lived a different lifestyle. But it's food for thought, right? And I don't want to get to like 45, stressed up to the eyeballs, $1 billion in the bank from the streaming platform, and you have a heart attack. You're like, what was all that for? It was pointless. So I definitely think, as people say, work-life balance, I don't think you can do it all at the same time. I think you do it in halves. So I think you front load when you're young, you've got no responsibilities, you can take risks. So I've been able to put about $500,000 into the business since April. I don't think anybody with kids and a wife would be allowed to do that. And
no, it'd be on the
neither
next
should
house,
they.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, neither should they, because that's
house upgrade.
It's a little bit, you know, risky, so to speak. So I've got the ability to put all my time, sacrifice my weekends, everything, and put it into a business. But there'll come a point where I just go, done, I've got enough. And I've always thought, instead of chasing like 1 billion, 100 million, why don't, like, you can get to like 10, 20, 30 mil. You'd never need any more than that.
So when you get to that, will you just stop or will you continue?
I'll prioritize other things because I prioritize 3 at once. So at the moment, it's stream platform, the business, and fitness.
The only thing I'd say from my experience is you can get too wound up within your business. You can then lose your social framework around you. You can lose out on the things you could do between 20 and 30 and 30 and 40. And I found I had to get out and do those things, you know, so it wasn't always just putting away money, always building my business. I would say, right, well, that weekend I am competing in RC helicopters because I want to be at the World Championship. I want to practice my car racing at Brands because they've got a particular track day on and because I want to race there at the weekend. So I think there is a balance to be had there, and drawing a line, unfortunately, I feel that line just keeps going forward and forward and forward, and you don't make that break to doing the things you enjoy, and some of the things you want to enjoy you can't because you're too old.
Do you ever stop?
What do you think about that?
I've noticed that lately, where I was talking to Hamza about this the other day, and I was like, 2 weeks time, everything's done, I'll come and see you. He was like, mate, ever since I've known you, you've been saying 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
It keeps moving, doesn't it?
And I was like, yeah, it's a good point. And right now, my end goal is get the stream platform done. And once it's done in March, I'm like, hey, life's going to start. And then I think to myself, but you've got to film all the fucking content. So who's going to do that? Yeah, it might be a team, but you've got to be there. You've got to be on set. You've got to be...
Quality control at the start
to
make
begin
sure it's
with,
right.
yeah. So I look at it and I'm like, it could be another 2 years of just relentlessness. However, I would rather do that than get to 40 and be like, fuck, my life's not quite where it wanted to be. You know, you've held me back. You know, looking at the kids and resenting them. You know, because what I'd never wanted to be is the guy who has like 3-4 jobs, and he's like, I wanted to be a dad. I'm going to be a great dad, but he's never there. So it's not his fault, but he's not a great dad because he's never there. Whereas like I can be the selfish, egotistical arsehole in the early days, do what's right for me, tick all those boxes, and then when I decide to make the switch, I'll be like, I can take the first 3-4 years off before my kid goes to school.
So how do you define a great dad though? Because I found that dad wasn't around when I was younger very much. But I
was there for what I would call the important
I think you were
things.
quite selfish with your business,
Yes.
which I thought was great because I looked up to him like a superhero that could do anything. And then I wanted to become like my dad. So to me, that's what a good dad is. But it depends, how do you define it?
Well, mine was the same. Mine used to work away. He had his own business and you wouldn't see him for 2 weeks. But then when he came back, it was, we're going to football. We're going to do, you know, it was fun stuff. So there's that as a bonus. But it's more society's framework, isn't it? The way they're like, he's never there for his kids. He's never like all that sort of stuff. So
See, I've got the feeling, the feeling you can be there too much for your kids. You can, you build them up too much because you're there too much. And they're the biggest thing in your life. Now, of course, they are a big thing in your life, without a doubt. But they shouldn't necessarily always be the biggest thing in your life and everything stops for them, because all of a sudden they get to 18 and everything doesn't stop for them. They've got to find their own life. And it's quite a shock.
Yeah, I don't think you need a second mum. It's like you've got your dad and your mum and they play different roles in your life.
I agree. I'm just saying it's there as an option. Like, instead of never seeing them, ever. Like, you've got the option. You could be like, if I want to be there this weekend, I can. If I want to, you can pick and choose. And that's what I like my life to be, is in control, options. That's why I'm creating my own streaming platform. Because tomorrow, like, somebody could just go, you swear too much. You're gone. And that's dangerous to me.
What is the concept of the streaming platform? Like, what content do you plan to put on there?
Everybody originally thought it was going to be like a safe place. It is a safe place for men's content, number one. But everyone thought it was going to be more like, let's get Tate on there, let's get Sneaker on there, let's get them saying whatever the fuck they want, and there'll be no policing. There has to be an element of policing. Otherwise, you just breed extremism. Like, it'll be, I wouldn't like what I've built, basically. So,
but where do you draw the line though?
Yeah, and it's almost hypocritical, because you're like, well, these platforms are stopping us from blah blah, but our line will just be so much further.
Yeah, I was going to say, you feel your line would be drawn somewhere better.
It'll be a logical line. Yeah. Instead of like, you're getting banned because you said something we don't agree with. It's like, but that's not, if there's a guy on camera and he slaps a woman, it's like, but you're gone. I agree with that one.
As long as it's not illegal.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, if somebody's doing cocaine off the desk, you'd just be like, no, you can't be. There's kids watching this. Do you know what I mean? You can't be having that.
Where would you stand on like hate speech? Because that's not illegal, but it is illegal in the UK, but not the US.
Yeah, I would say unnecessary hate speech was bullying. Pointless. Like, what are you doing? I'm gonna call you up. I'm gonna question you and be like, but come on, like, do you?
So it's like a warning, and then you can change.
Somewhat a warning, but more of a discussion, like man to man. Like the way that these platforms just go, you're banned and don't tell you why because they don't like you. Basically, I would more like call the person up and be like, is that what you want to be known for? Is that your legacy? Is this what you do with your job? But the long-term aim of the platform is more like, basically, imagine having a Netflix built for men with content that's been uniquely crafted for men, plus live sports for men. It's just a safe place where you don't, like Jordan Peterson got banned, didn't he? His film or whatever, yeah. And it's just like, well, go ahead. He's not. I don't think he's ever said anything wrong.
People really like him as well.
Yeah. So get on the platform. There's a space for you. Here's a big budget. Go for it. Like make a documentary.
I mean, we'll probably get comments that we've had you on, for example, and it would be like, I can't believe you agree with everything he says. Well, obviously we don't necessarily agree with everything you say, as we wouldn't agree with everything Andrew Tate says. It's just, you're an interesting guy and you got good views there. And I think a lot more women probably agree with what you say, but sort of can't.
See, the women I actually date, once they get past that whole, oh, my friend said you're a dick thing, right? And they actually meet you, they sit down with you, they go, you're not the same input. And it's like, well, what you're telling me, I'm not the same as a 15-second TikTok clip. Really?
That's a surprise,
is anybody?
isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? And all the clip, like I did the podcast with Alicia. The podcast was the Respecting Women campaign, where we got women on and we had a discussion. People clipped that up and made it look like I was shitting on her. And I'm like, it's the Respecting Women podcast. Like, how can you? But when it gets taken out of context, like I could make the Pope look terrible.
TikTok is so bad for it though. I think people on YouTube really seem to like you and you've got what I would call a cult audience, but TikTok not so much because it's just so wide.
And I don't have TikTok either. I hope everybody knows that.
But you're on there a lot, So
yeah, I don't actually have an account. I haven't been on it for probably 5 months.
What Kai says is he goes on TikTok, it ruins his day. Like, you can't get
I hate it. I literally hate it. If I'm on there at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, my day's done.
But I can hear my friends on there and, it'll be... you remember those old like American movies where somebody's flicking through the channels? So in today's news, and then some like wacky thing happens and then there's a comedy as Seinfeld comes up. It's that. It's that but in your brain hands. It's disgusting. And I when you can't see the screen and you can hear them on it, you're like, can you turn that trash off? And that's I just don't touch it.
I think there is some good on it, like the Mark Tilbury account. There is some fantastic stuff out there.
Yeah,
but
Strike It Big account. Yeah,
90% of it is horrible.
Yeah, it's the educational side. I think there's no problem with that. It's very, very good. And in fact, in China, it's 99% educational.
Yeah,
in fact, it's meant to be 100%, isn't it? Because they've cracked down on it.
Yeah,
and I think that's very good. Yeah, we've certainly used it as a tool to inspire, and also when we're copied, which we do get copied a lot, it doesn't really bother us because it's getting our message out there.
It just depends. If it's word for word, then we do get annoyed. But if it's just the message, like you were talking about, then
that's annoying because it's just like complete copying.
It's almost, their heart's not in it as well. Like they are just copying it for the views and they don't get the whole message aspect to it.
And half of them are doing it for the views, but then they don't even have a funnel to get any money out of the views anyway. So you're copying us for views to do nothing.
This is one of my big debates in this era now is like everybody prioritizes fame over money.
It's so weird.
Like I would rather have 1 million in the bank than have 1 million followers that you're not making money off of.
For sure.
It depends how
having both is great, but I don't understand this whole desire of like a girl on Instagram, if she doesn't have OnlyFans, has like 1 million followers. And what's the point though? I just don't really see the point.
Got 1 million followers and 5 have a go at her and she's upset about it.
Yeah. But I just don't understand I've never chased the followers. I've never asked on my channel once to subscribe, comment, like, whatever. Not once. And I never will because I just think that's up to the person watching it. And I don't really like that idea of it. That's not why I started it. People always used to say to me back in the day, you should be way bigger than you are. And I was like, but look, I've got 20,000 core people that love what I do. I take care of them. I've been in this industry 10 years and I plan to be in it another 10 at least. I've seen a lot of people rise, fall, come and go. Sneako's a great example of that. Just out of nowhere, just rose to the top. I just see a lot of people who haven't quite done it yet, haven't quite made it yet, haven't quite, ticked those boxes. acting as experts. And I don't approve because it's shitting on an industry that I've been in for 10 years that I really care about. The Tates and the Sneekos of this world have blown it up. As I look at the two guys from Fresh and Fit and I'm like, I don't see men. But yet they got this massive platform where they're, you know, talking shit about women. It's like, I just like self-accountability. I grew up around real men like my dad, my uncle, like 6'2", 6'3", beasts of guys with good morals, you know, would look after anybody, that sort of thing. And I'm just like, that's what I see as a grown man, like a serious man that would like look after people, help people, call people out on their bullshit when it's required. Like my mate headlocking that guy that pushed that girl. But I look at those two and I'm like, I just think you would run. I just think you two would back away. I just like, fair play to the YouTubers who have done boxing because that shows you a lot about them. Like I've got a lot of respect for KSI because he's useless. He can't box.
But he's got the heart. He's a bit of a dog.
But yeah, but he keeps going. Like how he beat Logan Paul, I do not know. Like you watch him and you're like, you might be the worst out of everybody.
It just goes.
But
technique goes out the window.
So that showed me how he made it with YouTube and everything else because it's there. He's got it up there, and that you know, there's a lot of respect there. Like skill is kind of somewhat genetic. You know, you're born quick and powerful, and you've got like, you know, big fists or something. Do you know what I mean? He's got none of that really. You look at him and you just go, God, he's the worst boxer I've ever seen.
Yeah, when he started YouTube, he looks completely different to now. So he's improved himself and he's become.
Oh, with YouTube, yeah.
He used to have glasses. He didn't look great at all, did he?
Well, that's the male advantage. It's like the money and, you know, connections with different people. You know, different trainers, high level trainers, exposure to somebody who's in top level shape. They're going to teach him. He's got the money. He's going to bring it all together, which is why I think the money's so important because then you can use it to facilitate everything else. But yeah, massive respect to KSI because he shouldn't have won a single fight. He's that bad.
Do you think society is trying to destroy the alpha male?
That's a tough one because I think, here's the thing, people get tired of a certain thing. So the only reason my industry has popped up and the only reason I started and, you know, a lot of people did is because there's and this, people are going to laugh at this, but there's a small pocket of male oppression. So you look at like the suffragettes, massively needed.
Yeah.
Massively needed. I'm fully in support of them. And then over time, women's rights rise up. But what people forget is they say women's rights as one big bracket. It moves up as one ceiling. It doesn't. It moves up in pillars like the straight seven system. So we'll look at women's sports. Are they underpaid? It's getting there. They might be. You don't know. Do you know what I mean? Let's look into the data. They might be. I'm not sure. You look at women's ability in the workplace to get paid the same. No, that's fair. That's fair. I've worked in finance, and what tends to happen, and it's not everybody, is the women come in at 9 and they leave at 4:59, right? And the men stay for hours because they know how much, you know, it's going to benefit them. So certain industries, certain areas of life need to be improved, and certain areas, you know, have got to the right point where it's like we have equality here, but we don't have it here. We don't have it here, but we've got it here and we've got it here. There's certain areas that have gone too far. Just a little bit too far. It's like everything's going to do that. You know, it's like women's rights, women's equality. Okay, now you're equal, but we just want a little bit more.
I think that's the difference between the feminists and the feminazis. They want to, you know, dominate the men versus be the same as them.
And that's what happened. And I think so many guys looked at it and said, and this is why, like, you don't get 140,000 subscribers by accident, right? You must be saying something that 140,000 people resonate with. Same with Hamza and whatever. Like, we all grew these followings because we were saying stuff that other guys went, I feel the same way. And if you go through the comments, it's like, it's almost like this guy's reading my mind. And that's all it is. We just looked at the world like a comedian. You just looked at the world around you and went, that's not right. That's not right. That's strange. That's in a weird way. Let me talk about that. And then you talk about it and you find that, you know, hundreds of thousands of other men have got the same opinions. And I think that's why now, because now we're getting to a point now of saturation in my industry. So it's like this alpha male thing. When I first started out, the alpha male thing was building steam. Everyone was talking about alpha male, alphas versus betas, how to have alpha body language. All this stuff started up. This was 10 years ago. I think it's reached that annoyance stage now. It's at the saturation stage where people are like, shut the fuck up talking about alpha males. It's getting on my nerves. And everybody thinks they are one. That's the problem now. You don't have to get a qualification or a certificate or whatever. You can self-proclaim that you are a high-value man.
And now it's become like the top
who
1%.
said?
You need to become that. And that's what E-Man's talking about.
It used to be top 20, then 10, then 5,
exactly.
then 1. And
It's
everyone's
getting
saying top 0.1%. Yeah, because everybody's, thinking that they're there now. So it's like everybody's ego goes, well, if you're top 1%, I must be top 0.1%, and it's just going higher and higher. And that's why they're trying to kill the alpha male, because it's just fucking annoying. It annoys me as well, especially when it's self-proclaimed.
Because obviously I'm older than you. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, do you know what? You got more hair than me.
Yeah, well, I have actually. That's good, isn't it? But when I was younger, men were men. Without a doubt, and when I was probably 18, 20, men were men. They had a fight down the pub and, got their bird and all the rest of it. And the change it's quite amazing when you look from when I was 20 all the way through, and it's dipped, and it's definitely coming back up the other side. And I think the alpha male has certainly got a...
Do you think the internet and like
way to
gaming
go.
and stuff is what killed that? Like people not wanting to be like that because they're at home on the internet gaming,
Not actually going out in real
they're
life
just
and
not being a
interacting
man.
with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always a very confident person, so I think I had an advantage there. But
Picking
I know,
up girls at the ice rink.
well, it did happen. But people aren't that confident at the moment, are they? And I think that's where some of your content can help them, to gain that confidence, to get out there in the gyms and work on themselves.
So the points on the board, and that's just what I want to see. I just want to see sweat equity. That's what I want to see. I've put the work in my opinion. I've done what needed to be done to get to a level that I'm happy with. Somebody might look at me and be like, "You look like shit." Fair enough, but I've
it's
done
where
what
you're
I wanted to
happy to
do.
be.
Yeah, and I believe that I'm at a high level. But when I see guys, I don't keep coming back to them, but I do look at Fresh and Fit, and I'm like, I think I could clean both of you out in 10 seconds. I don't think either of you have ever had a real fight in your life. I don't think either of you have ever worked on like a building site or down in the
He's talking about us.
in the sewers. Like I've never seen them actually like grind and grit their teeth or.
They all got a medal for running in a race at school because everyone's a winner.
Right, I don't understand it. It's like as a high value man, it's like you're not a high value man until you've been smacked in the face a couple of times. You've lost a bunch. You've thrown money at something and it's gone to shit. Like that's what I see. I just want to see proof. I just need to see something. I just need to see that you spar on weekends. I just need to see that you used to be a labourer. You used to be on building sites, digging holes.
Yeah, I
In the
think I
rain.
got that from my journey in swimming. So I got knocked down so many times and trying to become the best swimmer, Olympic swimmer. And obviously I didn't make it. So that knocked me down quite a bit. And I
Sports
started
is
my
great for
business.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier
It's
as well.
perfect. Like how many games or how many races were you like you're losing, and you kind of I'm not an expert swimmer, but I imagine you like took a breath to look up and you can see that,
Yeah.
and you're like I've got to go here, and you got to dig in. It's little things like that make me go I respect that person.
You need life experience.
Yeah.
And experience is something you get when you don't get what you expect. And you've got to live
That's a
through
good
that.
saying, actually.
Thank you very much.
Write that
We should
down.
write that down on a t-shirt and do some merch.
It's like I always talk about the concept of self-awareness, like knowing yourself and having the proof, having the evidence. And I'll say to guys on the channel, like you might get to a certain level in life, and I call it stick or twist. So like you work hard, you think you want to be a billionaire, you get to 50,000 a year in your 9-to-5 job, and you go, hey, this is quite cushy
Are you
actually.
going to take the option or are you going to sit in the trap?
Right, and you go, hey, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to get married. If that's what you want, you win, right? But a lot of guys don't realize until that happens. And I've said to them that I've done my stick or twists multiple times. I've got to the point where I could have had a lovely life, and I went, let's end it with a girlfriend. I've got a beautiful little dog and a girlfriend and a nice house. I'm making good money in finance. This could be it. And I was like, pull the plug on all of it. Let's go again. I had an opportunity this summer in like April time, go and buy a house, and I was like, no, let's put all the money back in the business. Let's do the stream platform. Let's reinvest in the products. Put myself through more stress. I've been in the gym where I'm fucked, and I've kept going. I've had fights where I've won easily. I've had fights where somebody was as strong as me, and it was like, this is tough, I'm going to have to dig in. And I found another gear and I went on. I've had football matches where we're losing with 2 minutes to go, and I'm like, I'm going to be the guy who wins this. So I know I've proven myself. I've been punched in the face and it's hurt, and I've gone, no, I fancy a bit more of this. And I've gone forward. Whereas a lot of guys get punched, cower, run off. You got to go through that shit before. I just think you should be. I think the term high value man or something should be like a certificate. It should be something you earn. It should be. There should be a committee,
like a qualification.
Should be a committee,
yeah.
like me, Hamza, the Tates, whatever. The people who like Jordan Peterson, and we should all sit around a table and go, this year entered in the high value man frame is this guy. Do you know
like
what,
the
like
X Factor when they bring people to
just bring
judges'
it-
houses? Like,
yeah.
oh, not that one. This one.
like I'm somewhat kidding, but do you know what I mean? It's fucking annoying because the 16-year-old is easily fooled, as I used to be. Yeah, like, and it's short-lived. Like, the example I always use is Ty Lopez. Ty Lopez took over the world in his garage, right?
And he's still a meme to this day, though.
Yeah, but you look at
He's doing
his.
well now, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not in terms of how popular he is, but he is investing in lots of businesses.
No, but this is the thing. He's a smart guy. This is basically where I got it from, because I used to watch his content all the time, and it's not that I thought like, oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread, but he was making sense. It's not that I believed everything that he was saying, but he was making sense. And he's still got a shit ton of money today. So whatever he did, even if he was faking it at the start, he invested it well. So he got out when he needed to. But he's got like 3-4 million followers on YouTube and gets like 8,000 views.
Yeah, I think
His channel's in the mud,
right
but
time.
yeah, he jumped ship. And a lot of people don't realize this is coming. So they're coming on camera, shitting on women, talking about high value man, front into the camera. And then the camera goes off and they're a different human being. The sunglasses come off and, you know, texting their missus, sorry, I couldn't text back, babe. I was busy on the podcast. Oh, I miss you. And it's like, that's not what you just portrayed on the fucking podcast. But these guys are flashes in the pan and they'll disappear. It's just, it's an annoyance of mine.
So building on that longevity point, obviously you talked about having a business other than your YouTube channel, and you don't get the revenue through the YouTube channel. You got your supplements, and you sell a certain supplement that's a testosterone friendly body wash. So why is increasing your testosterone important?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, past the obvious of like muscle building, which is great, you know, the more masculine appearance, so to speak, like that's fantastic. But I think that should fall to the wayside. It's the mental side of it. They've done studies where it makes you more competitive. It makes you want to take more risks. That's
And
massive.
you have too much though, that you get too competitive, you can't focus
Not
as much?
Not naturally. Okay. I think if you did
force it.
if you did the steroid thing and you went for it, you'd be bouncing off the fucking walls, right? But
I might need a fight.
but in like a natural range, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You could probably hit like 900 to 1,000.
It was quite funny, really, because our editor Sam and Curtis both did this testosterone test.
What'd you get?
Well, they didn't want to show each other. I want to read mine in private in case it's less than yours. It was quite entertaining, actually.
It wasn't the scale to 1,000. I think it was some different way. of measuring it.
I don't know that one. I always do nanograms per deciliter.
Yeah, we should have done that as well, but I slightly beat Sam, so I was really pleased. And Kai didn't do it. We don't think that you'll be very high on it.
Well, it might not register.
It just keeps you sharp. It's like it might not register. They did it in. Remember the
I was
baseball
trying to just
scandal?
let it fly below the radar. Like, yeah, move on.
Well, you get the moustache, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember the baseball scandal?
No, go on.
So they all got done for steroids.
Oh, of course, with
Right.
the big arms for the throwing.
Yeah, and they were saying like, what benefits did you feel? And he was like, the ball looked like it was that big. It was like it was in slow motion. It looked massive. He was like, I could hit it every time. As soon as they came off the testosterone or whatever else they were on, they're like, I couldn't see that thing for shit. And it just keeps you sharp. It keeps you away from getting like brain fog. You know, when you're young, you're just on it all the time. And probably the most important thing, energy. You need energy. That's why I created my men's lifestyle supplement, because I was in London. I was getting up at 5 a.m. I was cleaning up dog shit in the morning. I was getting my breakfast, walking to work for an hour and a half, going to the gym for an hour, going into the office for a 12-hour day, back to walk home, hour and a half. You'd get home, you'd have to wash up, clean, do everything that needs to be done. The dog needs to be walked. Then I needed to work on my business, because otherwise I'd be stuck in this rut forever. And then the missus wants to have sex. And you're like, where am I going to get this energy from? And then after 4 hours of sleep, bang, you're up again. The alarm's going off.
You've always
and you're
got
like,
sex energy, though, haven't you, to be fair?
it's always there.
There is
It's
that little
always there.
door, isn't there? Oh, yeah, I've definitely got enough of that.
Have you ever heard of the Coolidge effect?
No, go on.
So the Coolidge effect is how people started to realize that porn was bad for the brain. And basically they put a rat, I think it was a rat or a mat, it doesn't matter, a rat in a cage with a female rat. And obviously he has sex with her. And my language is really good on this podcast. I usually would have said the F word. Right. So he has sex with her. And then like a lot of men do, shamefully, post-nut clarity, goes and runs into the corner, sits there and just ignores her. So they're like, okay, he's done. He's out of energy. He's kind of like deflated in the corner. So they take that rat out. They put another female rat in, turns around, bang, straight on it. He did this 18, 19 times and he was on the point of exhaustion. And every time they put a new female rat in, he was like, oh, I got to go and do it. It's like a mammalian thing that we have built into us and they call it the Coolidge effect. So when you're watching porn and you're watching one video, then the next one, you've got an access to millions of beautiful women that would usually require, like I said, 12 years in business, 6 years in the gym, 3 years of like life experience or something to even get her number, but you're getting it instantly. It's just really, really, really dangerous. Messes with the head. Yeah.
What's your opinion on the no fap movement? Because is it more of a mental thing or is it a testosterone level thing?
The testosterone thing's a bit iffy. Yeah. They have shown studies that it peaks after 7 days, but then it goes back to normal. But I spoke with a guy who's an expert on this, and he said that testosterone, the reason it feels like testosterone's higher is when you're masturbating a lot. I'm not an expert on this, but the synapses end up shutting off. So you have all the testosterone in the body, your body just can't access it. So that's why you end up feeling like shit. That's why when you've been doing no fap, you feel fantastic.
Didn't you feel a bit weird after 3 months of doing it or something like that?
Did you watch the video? Yeah. Did you? So here's my other take on no fap. It's great. Every guy should do it. Yeah. But if you get to a certain point, for me, it was around about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months, you get weird because you want it so much. Do you know what I mean? Like all you can think about is sex. A little like you roll over in the morning and you're just like, oh, that felt good. Do you know what I mean? Like a little twitch on yourself. Like you just rub against the sheet by accident.
What is the solution for the guy that cannot get a girl though?
Well, I know what you're trying to get me to say. I know what you're trying to get me to say.
I'm digging.
Yeah, I know. Right. And my take is controversial on this, but I don't really see a problem with it, apart from it being illegal, obviously. But I think what you should do is go, right, I'm going to try and kill the addiction, first of all. Okay, then once you get in a rhythm and you're like, I'm good at this now, I'm fine. Once you enter that weird zone, if you haven't managed to have sex, if you haven't made any progress with a woman, so if you're not even talking to anybody, I wouldn't be against, if it was for me personally, I wouldn't be against paying for it. If I put it this way, right?
I'm very against this.
We're all paying for it one way or the other.
This is the thing.
If the girl's not into it and it's just her job and she's coming to you and then she's going to the next person.
No, I get that.
I've got a friend that will get a girl round, like the girl that he knows, and he'll sleep with her. And then when she leaves, he'll get a prostitute round after.
Yeah, that's silly.
I tell him these stories and he just can't stand it. No.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm very against that.
Yeah.
I went 2 years without women and did the no fap thing so I could focus on business. I wanted it for pure sexual transmutation. Take the energy from there, put it in there, allow me to do, good stuff, like have the energy all the time.
So not even one night stands?
Not even one night stands, no. And it got very hard when I started to do the gym transformation thing. I started to look better and the money went up and you dress better and whatever. And then you start getting options. Well, when I got to that point, I was like, well, I've done what I wanted to do. So why am I was like, because I was going to do another 6 months and I was like, no, I'm done. So I went and had sex and I was like, right, all good. Here's my option to you. It's the stick or twist. Do you want to... People hate when I do this scale, so sorry. I'm dating a girl at the moment that fucking hates it and I do a scale, but it's so easy to understand. You cannot do it. You cannot do it, sorry. Would you want to have sex with a 4, which is horrible. It's horrible to say, but everyone does it. Everyone judges people. Let's just say, would you want to have sex with a girl who's not that great looking because you're currently at that point and she wants to have sex with you and you're
all
like...
women are wonderful. Come on.
They're all beautiful in their own way, yes. Right?
And you can't put them on a scale, but in this...
Yeah, but you have to. This
podcast with you on it.
Yeah, I'll take the fucking blame.
They do it to guys as well, don't they?
Yeah, of course they do, yeah. And then let's say if you went, look, I don't actually find this girl attractive, but she's all I can get right now. That's a weak mindset. So for me, I'd be like, okay, go and put the work in. And then when you get to a higher level, let's say an 8 or a 9 finds an interest in you and you're like, well, I genuinely want her. Well, that's, I'd rather that strategy and hold back, do the no fap thing, put the work in and get to a high level. Now, if you do all that and you get to a high level and you've been doing no fap for X amount of years, that's when I'm like, okay, now you should probably just break the ice. Like I used to do it in football. I didn't pay for prostitutes, right? But I used to do this in football where in pre-season training, I'd go out all summer, I'd get drunk, whatever. You'd fuck girls, you'd fuck around, you'd eat shit, you'd go on holiday and whatever, and you'd put on a few pounds. You weren't fit. So I'd go up the fields and I'd just sprint back and forth, till I threw up. And I'd always be like, right, that's the icebreaker. It'll be easy from there. You just got to get that one out the door. And that's the way I see it. It's just like, you shouldn't always have it in the background as like every 3 months, that's weak. But if you get to that weird zone and you are like, I don't like who I am at this point. And for you, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, I don't know. But you're going to get to a point where you're in sheer desperation. I just don't, if nothing else is working, it's like you would probably tick that box and go, I feel normal. And you'd find you'd be getting much better responses from women because you're not like, hi, what's your name? Because it's all you can think about. And this is why I promote something called the marathon mindset, where, for example, I might see a girl at the gym and I'll just be like, morning, and move on. The next day, morning, move on. Next day, she says morning to me and I'm like, oh, that's progress. So now I guess she acknowledges, she knows what I look like. She acknowledges me. She knows I come here. The next day, just morning, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. Yourself? Yeah, I'm good. Move on. The next day I'm doing something, whatever, and she's like, oh, can I borrow that? Yeah, go ahead. You're building up this like familiarity. It's like the better way to do it, rather than always being like stood in front of somebody and be like, oh, how can I get your number? Because it's all you're thinking about is sex. Whereas with my strategy, I switch all that off. I'm like, you're a normal person, you're a human being, and I'm just acknowledging you.
But that's exactly like business as well. You have all your videos going out there. It's kind of like a morning hiya to all of the people watching you. Yeah. And gradually, as they have more touch points with you, then they get more into the brand and they buy your products and maybe go to the streaming platform. So it's the same with everything.
Yeah, it works the same way. It's because I did sales for like 4 years. And you don't ring up and go, hey, do you want to buy our, you ask some questions. Hey, you looking for, no, we're not at all. You're like, oh, fuck. There's no point, is there? Like, it's like saying to a girl, morning, and she just goes, I've got a boyfriend. You play, see ya. It's a red flag. You just be like, well, I ain't going to entertain you anymore. Whereas if you go, morning, 3 days in a row, whatever, you start having a chat. 2 weeks later, whatever, you pull up in the gym car park in a nice car, and she's just like, oh, that's a nice car. Or, oh, I love that car. Or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, she's probably single. That's what we call a buying question in sales. Do you know what I mean? It's just... Or like you leave the gym on a Friday and she's like, you're having a quick chat, all right, see ya. And then she just goes, okay, yeah, you going home? Okay, yeah, so what's your plans for the weekend? And you're like, well, that's a buying question. A girl with a boyfriend or a girl who's invested in a boyfriend wouldn't be asking that. So by doing the marathon mindset, you can't get rejected. You never fail. You just constantly have like fucking 200 women that you speak to on a daily basis, and they consider you. And here's the thing: you're
slowly moving them through the funnel without them.
A little bit, but you're not doing it in a sleazy way. You're not doing it.
I think his mind was.
Get out of the gutter. Now.
Works for me.
You're not doing it for the wrong reasons. See, because that could appear sleazy. It's like you're setting them up for something down the line. But
it's just being nice, isn't it?
It's just if you can just show I'm a decent person, trustworthy, but that's who I am as a person. And then, we're all human. If that opportunity springs up, which is just like, I'm free this weekend, bang, we'll take it. There it is. It's on the plate. In sales, if you heard that, like, well, we are interested, you'd be like, boom, you got to go in for it. If you mess it up there, no, fair enough. But it's a lot easier than people always talk about cold approach, pickup artists. I fucking hate all that. It's the worst thing that ever happened to men because it just destroys your confidence. So all these guys, like I said, doing no fap, and then they're like, right, I've been doing no fap for 2 years. I'm going to approach a woman. And you're like, you're going to be so fucking nervous because your balls are about this big. Do you know what I mean? It's like going into mating season. You probably have to have a fight first before you can go and approach somebody. Like it's stupid. Right? And here's the thing, like people always go, oh, you hate women. Whatever. It's like, no, I'm just pointing out the realities. If a woman loves you, she'll want a house with you. She'll want holidays. She'll want, let's get a new car because I want to have more kids and we need a bigger car. She wants time with you. But what that is to a man, and this is why male life is so hard early on, is that's a giant negative. It takes all your time and money, and it's a horrible term I've used in the past, but I've said that women are financial leeches, right? And I couldn't come up with anything better. I should take some time because it's a horrible term and I don't approve of it today.
Well, some women are, we can say that.
But everybody sees that as, oh, not every woman's a gold digger. And I'm like, no, but some of the nicest women I've ever met who are they're on my side. They're like, babe, let me pay today. Like, you've been paying a lot and whatever. Like, the girl I'm dating at the moment gives me fuel money. And I'm like, fuck, that's the first girl who's ever given me fuel money in my life. But if we got together, she will eventually want kids. Well, that costs money. It takes time. She won't want to live in my apartment where I am right now. It's not fit for kids. It's not fit for that sort of life. She'll want a house. Okay, well, I've got to go and buy that. Even if we go halves, there's still money coming out of my account, but it's very likely that I'll probably be, funding the majority of that, which if you want that woman is fair enough. And then it will be, we need to get a more suitable car for the kids or something like that. Let's upgrade our car. Babe, I love you so much. I want to take holidays with you. Let's go and do trips together. And it's like, she's doing it because she loves you, but it doesn't matter if you've got the greatest woman on planet Earth, time and money is going. Right? And a lot of guys aren't aware of that to begin with. And it's like, just get the logic ticked. Finance, fitness. How many guys are out of shape going, I'd love to go to the gym, but I've got 2 kids. And it's like, just why didn't you do it in the early days? Because once you've done it, it's very easy to maintain. When is enough? So do you want for me personally or generalized?
For you personally.
So for me, I had a 10-year plan. It's 2 years in. It was going to stop. I've always said men peak fully, like 36, 37-ish. That's just when
54, 55.
It could be. I'm not there yet. I've always thought like collectively when everything gets brought together, if you did an average, maybe like 36, 37, it's when you're still in shape, you got good money, you're a little bit more experienced, you got some wisdom, everything's at a great point. So I always like kind of aim for that. And that was when I was going to put live sports on the stream platform, have a big, like the biggest boxing fight that's on that year. I want to host it on the platform and then step back and be like, I've fucking done it. While I'm sat ringside, I'll be like, that's it. I can step back now. I can take some years out. That's why I front loaded it. That's why I did it as early as possible. Because to be a 30, by the time it's all cemented and properly wrapped up, probably 31, like by the time I go, okay, that's good. Do you know what I mean? So to be a 31-year-old in shape man with money, great life setup, access to women, well, that was the goal, to tick every box all at once. What's the point in finally making your first million at 72? So I just think the best thing you can do is just go sacrifice your teens and 20s. But I'm an extreme example. Do you know what I mean? Like not everyone's going to do that. But I just figured the quicker I do it, the better my life is. Younger. Do you want to finally make it 40 or do you want to do it at 30? Just 10 years of extra amazing life. I just figured, why not? Just front load it. Just do it all as early as possible.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Very interesting.
And I am going to ask them to like the podcast now. So if you did enjoy it, make sure to smash that like button. And we will see you next Friday with a brand new episode. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from these two.
I was wondering how you were going to do that.
I thought that.
Right,
Bye.
awesome.
Thank you guys. That's so good.
Very good.